Is moral responsibility out of style? Our papers and our newsreels, and yes, our own observations tell us that immorality surrounds us as never before. We see violence in the streets, in our cities and suburbs, graft and corruption in the highest public offices to which we look for leadership, when scandal in local and national government has become so commonplace that many begin to consider it a way of life. Then I say that we, as a nation, are not far from the kind of moral decay that has brought on the fall of other nations and people. The philosophy of something for nothing, the cult of individual and government irresponsibility, is an insidious cancer that will destroy us as a people unless we recognize it and root it out now. I say it is time to put conscience back in government, and by good example, put it back in all walks of American life.
I think if you step back, and especially if, take a not American mindset, but look at America, the most notable thing for me is, as a society, we seem completely incapable right now of solving even one problem. We're just not solving anything. We have falling life expectancy in the United States. Unbelievable. We have, of course, the opioid epidemic. We have a healthcare system that is twice the cost of any other healthcare system in the world. Yes. We're at perpetual war in the Middle East. We have the highest income inequality in American history right now. We have crumbling parts of our infrastructure. We know it's been falling apart for a long time. But administration after administration recently, we haven't been able to build 1 mile of fast rail. We're patching at best, but not designing anything for the 21st century. Yeah. And you step back and you say, that is really a peculiar political system. Put aside all the debates about what kind of system the U.S. Congress or parliamentary system, or just ask a question: can a society address real problems and move to solve them? Yep. And I would say America has been unable to do that for probably about 30 years now, where we identify the problem and nothing happens. Trump said, okay, I'm a builder, I'm going to build infrastructure. That was the last we ever heard of it. It's not going to happen on this man's watch, be sure of it. Yep. But I have to say also with President Obama, he gave a lot of speeches about infrastructure too. He didn't get 1 mile of fast rail built in the United States. He made a stimulus in 2009, 2010, during the financial crisis a decade ago, but it was a blip. Spend more, spend less. End of story. Where was the structural change? Where were the long-term solutions?
Shalom. I would like to give all honor, glory, and praises to YAHAWAH, Bahashem, Yahawah, Bahashem Kakwadash. I would like to give double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. Salutations to all you sincere Akim, pushing this word across the four corners of the world. Just a quick lesson going into the societal decay within America. And I was just looking up that term, societal decay or social decay, and it goes into absolute declines demographically, socially, morally, spiritually, culturally, in matters of healthcare and or on environmental issues. In America, which is spiritually codified as Babylon the Great according to the Holy Bible, is highly plagued with immorality. And as you should know, the sin of immorality destroys nations. Look at ancient Sodom, ancient Gomorrah, and those other 3 ancient Canaanite cities. Fast forward to the ancient Greek Empire and also the ancient Roman Empire. And like how I bring out from time to time, Joe Rogan on his podcast, he quoted from a guy by the name of Douglas Murray, and he stated, whenever an empire or a civilization is at the brink of collapse, then they are highly obsessed with sex or gender. And you see that problem within America, how this society is heavily plagued with hypersexualization, which is really a cause of feminism, which is another problem that's devastating America. Like for instance, you watch these different street interviews or podcasts, and when these different guys interview these different modern women, it's like they are in competition to say the most vile things or what they have done within the bedroom. So therefore, that's another indicator of societal decay. So this place is being played with these types of things, along with witchcrafts or Satanism, mental illness, unemployment, poverty, debt, homelessness, drug overdoses, poor infrastructures, pride, and violence. So with these type of problems all combined within one particular society, then America's on a highly self-destructive path. And that takes me to Revelation, the 17th chapter, the 4th verse. And the woman, and that's referring to America, was arrayed in purple and scarlet color and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. So remember that golden goes into that splendor or that radiance of America. Like for example, you might see a woman look pretty good far away, but the closer you get to her, then you see she's facially challenged. Might have acne scars all over her face, might be missing a few teeth, probably going bald. So the point is, that's how America is from far off. Like some years ago, when these different nations come over here, they were thinking that the streets of America was paved gold. So this is how America spiritually entices these other nations via that Babylonian wine. Like another example, the way they portray Hollywood or New York, you'll be thinking that these cities are pretty clean, the way they portray it on TV. And the allure of those particular cities might be really enticing or attractive, but once you go there, you'll hear people say it's not all what they expected. Like it probably smells there, it might be a lot of rodents, it might be plagued with a lot of homelessness. Those places are likened unto cesspools. And like it says right here within the scripture, having a golden cup in her hand full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. So this place spiritually has many STDs, and like how that Edomite politician at the beginning of this video, back in 1964, he compared the toxic ways of America at that time point as a cancer that cannot be rooted out. So fast forward to nowadays, how much more that cancer has really taken over that body. And that's exactly where we at within the prophecies of the downfall of America. This is a dying empire. Verse 5, and upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. And according to the book of Nahum, the 3rd chapter, America is definitely that well-favored harlot. She's the mistress of witchcrafts, and she's selling nations through her whoredoms via westernization. And that's exactly why the minds of these modern Babylonians are spiritually polluted. So now America is in that process of societal decay. And as each day that goes by, this American society is continually getting worse while it's circling the drain. And a very main component of the decadent state of America is due to its pride. And that's why it's stated within Obadiah 1:3, how the pride of thy heart have deceived thee. Because within the minds of the nobility of Esau Edom, they stated, who shall bring me down to the ground? And when our elder apostles, elder hit the scene, referencing to Elder Abba Bivens, when he started pushing forth that righteous vibration of YAHAWAH, which were in the late 1960s, early 70s, that was the very beginning of the societal decay within America. And that takes me to Isaiah 14, verse 11, thy pomp is brought down to the grave, and the noise of thy vials, the worm is spread under thee, and the worms cover thee. So that pomp represents the arrogance, the pride of America, beginning with these Edomites. Like for example, the Marine Corps, their slogan is the few, the proud, the Marines. You have this alphabet movement pushing forth this gay pride, make America great again. So all of that vain noise is being brought down, along with the arrogance of these prideful Americans. So thy pomp is brought down to the grave. And whenever you see on these different comments on social media, especially YouTube, whenever it's a country coming against America, like for example, Russia, North Korea, or China, you'll see a lot of the comments will say they'll never take us down, especially involving nuclear warfare. So therefore, that's that pride. And that takes me right to Daniel, the 7th chapter and the 8th verse. I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn. And that's referencing to America, before whom there were 3 other first horns plucked up by the roots. Those 3 horns represents the British, the Spanish, and the French. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of man, and a mouth speaking great things. And that's the pride of America. And when you read the book of Psalm, the 10th chapter and the 6th verse, it's stated, he, referencing to Esau, have said in his heart, I should not be moved, for I should never be in adversity. And that's the minds of the nobility of Esau Edom. They can cause all this havoc amongst the earth for many, many centuries, stolen nations' identities, stolen nations' natural resources, demonize these particular nation leaders or countries when they don't want to abide by the rules of the nobility of Esau Edom, or to accept America's democracy, just straight rob, rape, and pillage all these different nations, especially the Most High's chosen nation, the biblical Israelites. So therefore, you can cause all this devastation amongst the earth and thinking that you will not be in adversity unto Yahawah Ba'ashem Yahushua. So that's that mouth speaking great things. And let's link it up with Isaiah 13 verse 11. And I will punish the world for their evil and the wicked for their iniquity, and I will cause the arrogancy of the proud to cease, and will lay low the haughtiness of the terrible. And the Heavenly Father Yahweh is going to allow this to be happen ultimately by his only begotten Son, Yahushua. But before we get to that great moment of biblical prophecies, via Yahushua's second coming, the Most High Yahweh is going to allow these other nations to get their licks back upon America, that big bully. And that's going to be by thermonuclear warfare. And let's also link that up with Isaiah 26 and 5. For he, referencing to Yahawah Yahawashi, bringeth down them that dwell on high. And that's referring to the host of the high ones when you read Isaiah the 24th chapter and the 21st verse. And that's referring to the nobility of Esau Edom. And along with their main hub that has that much negative influence upon the world, America. That's why it says right here, the lofty city, going into that very powerful, arrogant city that's very high exalted. And it's no wonder why America's symbol is the bald eagle, which is that bird that fly the highest. So the lofty city, he laid low, even to the ground. So before this prophecy come into fruition physically, it's going to manifest spiritually, morally. And that's exactly why we are witnessing within these end times, the city of confusion is being broken down. Look at the heights of moral decline within this society. It's like mostly everybody you come across, they see it. So he laid low, even to the ground, he bringing it even to the dust. And that's ultimately going to be done by World War III, as it says in Isaiah 9 and 5. But this, referring to this warfare, should be with burning and fury of fire, and also by the fire that Yahushua along with the angels are going to bring as well. So back again in Isaiah 14 verse 11, thy pump is brought down to the grave, and the noise of thy vials. The worm is spread under thee, and the worms cover thee. So those worms represents the corrosion, the crumbling, the rotting of this place, America. Remember, America is like that woman you see from a far distance, and she might seem attractive, and once you get close upon her, then you will see that she's not all that. Hair all over the place, her body all out of shape, might have some blisters on her lips. She might have mental issues. So therefore, that's the allure. And as it says in Ecclesiasticus 9 and 8, for many have been deceived by the beauty of a woman. And look how when our people migrate from these other nations to come into America, assuming everything is going to be all good, they're going to live happily ever after. But this is that golden cup in the Lord's hand that they're going to truly see and face the curses of the biblical Israelites. So the worm is spread under thee, and the worms cover thee. Once you go into infrastructurereportcard.org, it was last reported as a C-. So therefore, it's a growing problem of the wear and tear of America's roads, along with the levees, the buildings, the bridges, the railroad tracks, and the list goes on. From a spiritual aspect, those worms goes into the decadent state of America, the moral decline within America, and or the societal decay in America. How this place is being plagued with immorality, feminism, mental illness, hypersexualization, Satanism, unemployment, poverty, debt, violence, homelessness, poor infrastructures, drug overdoses. And speaking on drug overdoses, I came across an article on activistpost.com, and it was going into about the deadly fourth wave of the opioid crisis and how it's linked to the rising overdoses of fentanyl. And that alone is wiping a lot of these Americans off the map. And let's get right quick. Ecclesiasticus 25 verse 7, there be 9 things which I have judged in my heart to be happy, and a tenth I will utter with my tongue. A man that have joy of his children, and he that liveth to see the fall of his enemy. And America has been nothing but a great enemy upon the Israelites since the day one that we got here. So by seeing Yahawah Bahashem Yahawashi bringing forth all these different scourges, afflictions, and plagues upon America and upon the proudful inhabitants of America should bring forth great joy within your spirit. Because in totality, this represents that we are at the end of our prison term as a biblical Israelites, and we will no longer go in captivity ever again. And that's why it's stated within Revelation 18 and 20, rejoice over her, thou heaven, and ye holy apostles and prophets, for Yahawah Bahashem Yahawashi have avenged you on her. The fabric of this society is on a rapid deterioration, and the only path forward is destruction. And that concludes the lesson through the spirit, the societal decay in America. So with that, hopefully you all was edified, you all stay strong, keep pushing forward. Shalom.